How do you navigate the cultural questions that you're not ready for? For example, things like, why does that family have two moms on a commercial or a TV show? Why do boys think they want to be a girl?
Good question, and I think ultimately the foundation has to be there to be able to have those conversations in a loving environment. And I think we've heard it from numerous guests up here is about that relationship with the kids is key. And from a psychological standpoint, it's actually key too, because even when we as parents feel like we don't have as much influence on our children, because let's be honest, from the day they're born throughout the rest of their life, you are progressively getting less control of them. They have more control over themselves than you do. So by the time they're teens or by the time they're tweens and these kind of conversations are starting to come up, we can't necessarily force them to agree with us. We can't force them to adhere to our expectation, whether it's a cultural choice or just a physical expression of whatever they want to do. But if you have a good relationship with your kids, your influence on your kids is never secondary. Even during teenage years when their friends are really important and what they're doing on social media is really important, if the foundational relationship is good, you still, as parents, still have more influence over your kids than their peers. So we need to take that into perspective, and that influence changes. Obviously, when my kids were super young, I could actually change what they did. Like if my son was having a tantrum, I could physically pick him up. He's 15. I'm not picking him up. So what happens is that influence transitions as they become older. Our influence goes from physical influence to a moral influence. So we have more impact over their moral compass if you have a good relationship with your kids. So when those things come up, I think it's a great opportunity for us to sit back and say, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? This is what our culture thinks. This is what our culture says is okay. This is our view on that. This is why we don't think it's okay, or this is why we think differently, or we have a different viewpoint. So we can start to help them with that process of navigating what the culture is telling them is appropriate or healthy or good versus biblically what we feel is healthy or good, because ultimately it will come down to their decision. So I want to love them, care for them, and then help them with the process of determining what they feel is morally appropriate.
So Dr. Brower, one of the things that comes to mind there is the ability to have that influence when that conversation comes around. Do you have any tips or tricks today to regain some of that influence so that maybe if we're in the early stages of parenting, we're ready for it?
My biggest trick is to just listen.
Yeah.
Our kids just want to be heard. And oftentimes they're talked to all day at school. They're talked to all day at their jobs. Like they just want someone to sit back and listen. So it's really interesting. My daughter's 17, and our relationship has changed a lot over the years. I mean, she's an adult now in all sense, and our relationship has definitely grown when she's able to just come home and vent. And I don't have to fix it. I just got to listen and care and connect. And ultimately, if they feel you're there, kind of what Ben said, it's like if his son feels like he's on his side, it completely changes how any message impacts. So if we just listen, genuinely, carefully listen and connect with our kids, it changes everything.